All right, today we're going to put on our detective hats and dive deep into the Bible. We're investigating a single, incredibly powerful verse. Think of it as the final piece of evidence, the closing argument in a divine court case that brings an entire world system to its knees. And boom, here it is, Revelation 18, verse 24. This is it. This is the final charge laid against that great, symbolic city known as Babylon. I mean, after all the accusations of wealth and pride and corruption, this is the one that seals her fate. It is a chilling indictment, accusing this one single entity of being responsible for the deaths of God's people throughout all of history. So, what does that really mean? I mean, how can one system be held accountable for all the righteous bloodshed on the entire planet? Well, to really get the weight of this verdict, we need to unpack the evidence piece by piece. Okay, let's kick off the investigation. And our first step is to examine the original evidence. We're going to look at some of the key Greek words from this verse, because, the language itself holds some absolutely crucial clues. So let's start with the word hema, which means blood. But here, it's not just talking about life. It's symbolizing violent death and the guilt that comes right along with it. Then you have esphagmenon, which means those who were slain. This word really emphasizes a brutal, unjust slaughter. But honestly, the real key that unlocks this whole verse is the verb right in the middle, hurethe. That word, hurethe, was found, is so important. This isn't like someone just stumbling upon new evidence. The language implies a divine action. It's as if God himself pulls back the curtain and exposes the guilt. It was always there, see, hidden inside Babylon's system. But right at the moment of judgment, it's brought into the light for everyone to see. The case is officially closed. Now, to really grasp this idea of blood guilt, we have to go way back. I mean, all the way back to where it began, to the very first murder recorded in the scriptures. This moment sets a precedent for everything else that follows. Right here, in the story of Cain and Abel, we find this foundational principle. Innocent blood doesn't just stay silent. No, it cries out from the ground, bearing witness and demanding justice. And this idea, it just echoes all the way to the book of Revelation. And you see, the conflict between Cain and Abel wasn't just some sibling rivalry. It was a clash between two completely different types of worship. Abel's offering was accepted because it came from a place of real faith. Cain's, on the other hand, was just an empty religious ritual. It was all form with no substance. And here's the connection. The prophets and the saints mentioned in Revelation, they're just like Abel. Their lives and their deaths were a faith-filled offering to God. So their blood becomes this holy testimony that cries out against the hypocrisy of Babylon's empty man-made religious system. So, with the evidence examined and the precedent established, we finally arrive at the verdict. Who, or maybe what, is this Babylon that stands accused? It is so crucial to understand this. In Revelation, Babylon isn't just a dot on an ancient map. It represents something so much bigger. It's a spiritual system. It's the symbol for any powerful, corrupt institution, often religious in nature, that compromises with the world, persecutes God's true messengers, and just silences the truth. And this isn't some new idea either. Centuries before Revelation was even written, the prophet Jeremiah connected the historical city of Babylon to this very same principle of divine justice. The system that's responsible for so much death will, in the end, face that exact same fate. And then, get this, Jesus himself echoes this very idea. When he's speaking to the corrupt religious leaders of his day, he holds their system accountable not just for their own actions, but for the cumulative guilt of all the prophets who came before them. I mean, that is a staggering declaration of corporate responsibility. And there it is again, that cry, this time coming from the martyrs themselves in heaven. They are pleading for justice. This shows us that the judgment of Babylon isn't random at all. It is the direct divine answer to their prayer. So the crucial point is this. When Babylon falls, it's not just an event, it's an answer. It is God's final, definitive response to the cry of every righteous person who is ever silenced for speaking his truth. Their blood was not shed in vain. Their sacrifice is remembered, and their cause is totally vindicated. Now, I know this might all seem like ancient history, but there is a powerful and very personal message in this for us today. The Bible often calls the community of believers the bride of Christ. So what does this verdict against Babylon mean for us?
You know, the story of Babylon is really an urgent invitation. It's a call to leave behind any form of dead, ritualistic religion that just mimics Cain's offering, and instead to pursue a real, vibrant faith. It's calling us to separate from worldly systems that compromise truth for power and to live in the freedom that can only come from a genuine relationship with God. The goal, ultimately, is to prepare ourselves, not as citizens of Babylon, but as the pure and ready bride for our King. But perhaps the most powerful takeaway here is about hope. The core message is that God remembers. The blood of the martyrs wasn't forgotten. Their cries were heard. And that principle, it holds true for us. Our struggles, our faith, none of it goes unnoticed. And just as God did not forget about them, the promise is that he will never forget about you. And so that leaves us with one final question to chew on. If Babylon really symbolizes any system, religious, political, or cultural, that values power over truth and silences faithful voices, well, where do we see its shadow falling in our world today? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.